A 19-year-old bride who was groomed by Islamic State and fled the UK to marry a terrorist fighter has pleaded to be allowed back into the country, explaining that her time with the organization was mostly sitting at home and not doing anything. During an interview with the BBC, she explained that she wasn't harming anybody, causing the journalist to disagree with her and push her to apologise for her actions. The teen is desperate to return home to receive support for her newborn baby boy. She has lived in Syria for 4 years, since fleeing her home in London to become a child bride to a member of the terrorist group. In a bizarre new interview, the Bethnal Green teenager explained she became religious after watching videos of beheadings and the good life provided by IS. When prompted by the BBC journalist to explain why she left the UK, she said she had seen, not just beheading videos, but people in the park, you know, the good life they can provide for you. And not just the fighting videos. But yeah, the fighting videos as well, I guess, Begum explained. The teen wasn't aware children were killed in the Manchester bombing carried out by IS, but said she thought it was wrong. I do feel it is wrong that innocent people are killed. It's one thing to kill a soldier that is firing at you, she said. But Begum struggled to decry the actions of IS. It's a two-way thing really, she said, because women and children are being killed in the Islamic State right now. When the journalist explained to Ms. Begum that her joining IS as a teenager and schoolgirl was a propaganda victory for the group, she said the publicity wasn't her choice. I didn't want to be on the news. I know a lot of people, after they saw that me and my friends came, it encouraged them. Like I did here, a lot of people were encouraged after I left, Ms. Begum told the BBC, after a number of other media appearances, but I wasn't the one that put myself on the news. We didn't want to be on the news. Ms. Begum was discovered by the Times journalist Anthony Lloyd earlier this month living in a Syrian refugee camp after fleeing the Battle of Baghouz. The teen, who was 9 months pregnant at the time, has now given birth to a baby boy. Lloyd said Ms. Begum wanted to return to the UK to give birth to her third child, after 2 of her infant children died in the past 8 months. The journalist made it clear Ms. Begum was an indoctrinated IS bride, who was not apologetic for her involvement with the terrorist organization. She's two things. She is the 15-year-old schoolgirl who was groomed and lured by the caliphate. And 4 years later she is an indoctrinated jihadi bride, Lloyd said. The journalist said she could be rehabilitated and reintegrate back into British society, with effort. She was a 15-year-old schoolgirl who made a terrible mistake. She was a child of British society. And we must do our best to rehabilitate her among our own people, Mr. Lloyd said. It's kind of retaliation. Their justification was, it's retaliation. So I thought, that's a fair justification. Journalist reminds Begum to apologise during interview. BBC journalist takes Ms. Begum to task in the tense interview. I still haven't heard you apologise to anybody, he says. Okay, yeah, I am sorry for all the families that have lost their husbands and sons and brothers, she replies, and I'm sorry for all the men that have lost their women and children because of the attacks back in the UK and other countries. It wasn't fair on them. They weren't fighting anyone. They weren't causing any harm, but neither was I. And neither was the women who are being killed right now back in Baghouz. The journalist then begins arguing with Ms. Begum. I think you're wrong, he says. I think you did cause harm because you helped this terrible regime, which was murdering people, which was mounting terror attacks. You joined them. You gave them support. You became a poster girl for them. Like I said, the poster girl thing was not my choice, she responds. I would not have done that. Me just going there and being a housewife is not in any way helping. Like, I'm not paying for their bullets. I'm not paying for them to be trained. Ms. Begum, who fled her home in Bethnal Green at 15 to marry a Duchess fighter, has given birth to 3 children, 2 of which have died of malnutrition. Now 19 and living in a refugee camp, she hopes to return home. I can't live in this camp forever. It's just not possible, she says. It is understood that should Ms. Begum make her way back to Britain, she will face legal proceedings by social services to safeguard her child. She expects to be charged with terrorism offenses and to be the subject of intense media attention, but is desperate not to be separated from her baby. Ms. Begum fled with two other teenagers in 2015, Khadija Sultana and Amira Abbas. Sultana had been killed in an airstrike during the fighting. Amira Abbas had chosen to stay in Syria. She has said she still loves her jihadi husband, 26-year-old Iago Rediq, very much.